G'day, welcome back to Shaving Down Under. I'm Doug. It's Friday afternoon. Cool changes starting to flow through the city. It's been a very hot week here in Adelaide. Just got hotter and hotter the last 2 days. 40 degrees Celsius, so that's up over your 100 Fahrenheit mark. And today we're going to do something a bit different. Since I've been in the process of packing for the big move, I come across this. School leavers statement for me. This was done at the start, probably the last week of January in 1984. So I found this a really interesting read. So I will read out my lack of academic achievement during the shave, and I hope you find it amusing like I do. So I'll just see if I can just slide that in there to make it a bit easier to read. Yeah, maybe not. Let's see. Not too bad. So what we're going to shave today is Artisan Shave Soap, Finlandia. There we go there. From memory, it's quite a good lather. Pretty sure it's that iceberg. So I remember it's got a real chalk mint scent to it. And we're rolling with a razor I've been using of late, and we're going to stick with the Gillette Platinum for another shave. This will probably be its last shave. And of course, Teton shaves. Their brush, beautiful brush, and with the stones in it. I've actually been using this quite a bit of late. Synthetic knot, does a lovely job. Rightio. So, beautiful lather. Oof, look at that. Lovely stuff. And of course, we don't need that much. You can hear that wind chime out there. That's just the cool change coming in. Slowly cooling down. It's not like, oh, we've gone to 40 to 25 in 15 minutes. It's just a slow decline in temp. Oh, it's a nice lather. So many soaps I've kept. Uncle Earl would be testament to this. I've seen his soap collection. I thought I had a bad soap collection, like too many. Uncle Earl made me feel a lot better about myself. He's got an amazing amount of soaps. Rightio. Let's get this shave going. So I'll read out, there's 5 levels for each class. I took maths, English, science, geography, Australian history, technical studies, art and health education. So the very worst was very limited achievement, and the very best was high degrees of mastery. I got none of them. The next one down was competent plus. I got none of them. The next one down was competent minus. I didn't get any of them either. And then we had coped in fundamentals, which I got 2, and that was for maths and science. That old duck, she was the teacher. I didn't. And then I wasn't even that competent. I wasn't coped in fundamentals. And then the very worst is very limited achievement, which I got for geography, Australian history, art and health education. So technical studies, I was on the border of very limited achievement to coped in fundamentals. And in English, who was the best teacher out of the lot we had for third year in high school, I was on the borderline of coped in fundamentals and competent minors. So I went to a school called Unley High School. First year there was 1981, the age of 13. And I only lasted 3 years. So I scraped through the first 2 years at high school. And at the start of the third year, which was year 10, in the South Australian curriculum of the time, I should say. And at the start of that year, I got put into a class that was abnormally small. There was only 15 students. The average class back then was around 25 to 30 students. And we were pretty much the low achievers of the school, of that year, of that age group. That's probably the best way to put it. And the school motto was the utmost for the highest. And for a government school, because they were in a rich area, a wealthy area with a lot of big private schools, Scotch College was probably the biggest one, but they were surrounded by these big colleges. So at the time, Unley High School had a really high matriculation rate for who they were or are. And there was a reputation they were banking on to attract students where maybe the family thought, I might save a few bucks and throw them to the public high school than to go into one of the colleges. That was a great first pass. So pretty much within probably the first day, they just said to the whole class, look, academically, you're not very good. So this year, we're going to be all about teaching you how to get a job, i.e. hit the road, Jack, we don't want you after this year. And I was like, you know, when you're a kid, like, you know, young teenager, you know, you're all piss and wind, aren't you? Bit of ego, developing ego. And straight away, I think subconsciously the whole class just knew, thanks for that. So the English teacher, I remember this. There's things I remember distinctly from this year in high school. And I remember she came in and for the first lesson, and I'd had her for the last 2 years. My first 2 years at high school, and this is the third year. And she sat down and she just said, "Look, I'm supposed to teach you how to get a job. I've never gone for a job in my life." This teacher was too honest for her own good. She said, "Look, I went to school, high school, went straight from high school into university, learned how to be a school teacher, and went from university into the classroom." I don't even think she said she even had to apply for a job. So she was given the task of teaching us how to get employment. And like you're sitting there as a kid and you're thinking, this ain't going to work out, is it? She's been honest. I respect that. We all did, I think. So that was the situation, and it was a classroom full. It was a motley crew of underachievers, if you want to say that. Some of us were from poor working class backgrounds like myself and other kids in the class. One lad his old man was a bank manager, but he just academically wasn't happening for whatever reason. So it was pretty obvious. So, try and get this story so it doesn't get too out of control. So I'll just fast forward to about, it was probably around November, mid-November, early November, and the English teacher came in and she was visibly upset. Not in a crying way, but just angry. And she said, "Look, I've just come from the staff room or the principal's office, and I've just been told they're failing all of you. You're all getting failed." And she was disgusted by this for whatever reasons. And I remember there was a friend of mine in the class, Rodney, and I remember we just looked at each other, and I think the English class finished. We just got up and walked out of the class. The next teacher's coming in. We just got out, walked out, just walked around the school. It's like, what the hell? So the year finished, and we had the Christmas and summer holidays, and at the end of the holidays I thought, I just can't be bothered going back. Like, what's the point, sort of thing. So I think it was like a school day before the term started for the new year, and you go get your books. And I remember going in, finding one of the teachers and going, "I've had enough, I'm not coming back." And the teacher, I can't remember who it was exactly, but he just looked at me and said, "Oh, yeah, that's fair enough, I understand." So this is where I got this end of school year leaving. So the first cab off the rank is maths, Mr. McLennan. And I had him through the 3 years at high school as well. I think he was the class teacher for my second and third year. And he wrote, "Douglas actively participated in the activities that he saw as being relevant to job obtaining often neglecting personal social topics. It's maths, mate. And really, the whole thing of that's all relevant to job obtaining, I think he was just pulling the put on that one. So, next one was English, and this was the best one of the lot. Miss Fagan, Carolyn Fagan. Although at an oral, A-U-R-A-L, and oral level, Doug is quick, witty and wily. Don't know about the wily anyway. He is slow to exercise his literacy skills unless taxed to do so. He is quite literate, but generally quite undisciplined. Yeah, she's probably on the money on that. In his exercise of this literacy. Science. Science was a basket case. Doug attended lessons and participated actively in oral work. Elle Fuller. She was a silly old bag. Funny thing was, we didn't have her all year as the science teacher. At the start of the year, we had this very awkward, gangly, egghead type. You ever watch The Big Bang Theory? And, what's his name? Mental blank, but it's right on the tip of my tongue. The guy who's really, really, really intelligent, but really, really weird. And he eventually gets a girlfriend with just long, straight, dark brown hair. And this is what this science teacher looked like. Sheldon, his girlfriend. Picture that woman, the character that woman plays, and this is sort of like what this science teacher looked like. And at first we took the mickey out of her because, we're kids. We thought we saw a weak link and we hit it, as kids do. But after a while, for some reason, she, instead of combating us, she opened up to us, and I can't remember what was said, but once she spoke, we all sat there in a class and it just resonated, and I think we all realised that she was being singled out the same way as we'd been singled out, and that we were like the victims, for want of a better word. And it was amazing. And after that one moment in that class, I don't know, it took a week or two to happen, at least, we were all on side. We all listened intently. We all participated like A grade students. And to the great wisdom of the high school, they got rid of her for whatever reason. So we were, devastated. We had this teacher that, the 15 of us in this classroom could tap in. She could have done anything with us from an educational point of view and got us firing. But to the wisdom of the school, out the window she went. So this old duck staggers, she was only like 5 foot, skinny as a string of beans, and she comes strutting in, all her 70 years of age or whatever she was, 65, sits on the table like she's John Wayne and starts laying down the rules. I was my mate, and we were standing there, and I remember we looked at each other and looked at this woman, and she was just lucky that we had enough intelligence between us to control our rage, that we weren't on murder charges, because I just felt my whole body just wanting to rip her apart. She was pathetic. Should never have been a teacher. Geography, A. Barrett. Now I think I had her all 3 years as well. She says, throughout the year, Doug showed minimal interest. He was prepared to make little effort. You know what? I can't remember one geography lesson in that year. So I think that probably says more about her than what it does about, or it did about me at the time. What have we got? Australian history, Mr. Campbell. Doug showed little interest and made very little effort to work in this subject. And he was probably right, and probably the one bit of respect we had, and you got to remember this was 1983, the dude was always well presented, but always wore leather pants. Leather pants all the time. It was like his image thing. So one day in class, I'll never forget this, a lad called Pasqualino puts up his hand and goes, "Sir, are you gay?" And he was like, "Oh," and he said again, "Are you gay?" And to his credit, he pretty much said it without saying it. And then after that, it was just back to normal, play on. But when you think back at it, like I did the other day, it's pretty brave of him at the time, 1983, for a high school teacher to pretty much admit that, yeah, I'm gay. There wouldn't have been many high school teachers that did that outside of a drama class. Like, he was all right. I can't think of one thing he did that stood out and I thought, you whacker, at all. Australian history, I'm pretty bloody interested in history in general, to be honest with you, and I've done a lot of reading since I left high school. I continue to read to this day, all the time. Books, magazines, comics, I just take in them, interest from everywhere. Tech studies. This was Mr. Pope, and he says, at times Doug showed some ability but showed no real inclination to work consistently. Well, you know what? He's probably right. But Mr. Pope fails to mention that he was a bagman for a bookie at the racetrack. So after we left high school, we started going to the track and doing a bit of gambling. Here's Mr. Pope sitting there, working for a bookie. Yeah, no worries, mate. No worries. Art. Doug showed little real interest in this subject. Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. And so completed little of the set work, and that's probably true. I just remember at the time, the dude was just disinterested. Either his wife had died or she'd left him or something like that. And he didn't care and I didn't care. It was an even trade. And then health education. Mrs. Vanderwerp. Doug has shown no interest in this subject, and she was absolutely correct, because she was absolutely fucking useless. I have two recollections. I'll give her the first one, the positive one. I remember she telling a story. She was, she must have been in her, 50s or 60s at the time. but she was from Europe with Van der Werf, Holland, somewhere like that, I'd imagine. And she was a young girl in World War II, and she told a story how she had to send a message or something through the night in occupied thing. And we'll give you that. But what I won't give her is, and I was telling my little brother this the other day when he came around, and he was like 17 years younger than me, and he went to a different high school. But he ended up having the same teacher. And she was exactly the same with him as well. So this was a perfect example of a useless teacher. She come into the classroom, handed out on each desk, 15 students, a printed manuscript of something. And she had one. And so she starts writing it on the blackboard, writing out what was on the blackboard. And she wanted us to write it down as well. And I'm thinking, why are we double handling here? So I put my hand up and said, why are we doing this? Why are we just writing out what we've already got printed in front of us? What's the point of this? And it was like, are you just lazy? Why don't we discuss what's on this paper? And she got the shits and I got the shits, and not much got done. Come on, hurry up. Thank you. So the only teacher I had of note in that year was really Miss Fagan, Carolyn Fagan. She was a single woman who I think she chose to be single. I think she was. I think she had a bit of a sex drive. She's one of those top button, blouse done up sort of woman that, to a young hormonal teenager was smoking hot. And long, straight, blonde, gold blonde hair. And she was very, very intelligent. But she could be captivating in holding a class, especially when she started telling stories about, history and things like that were relevant and sometimes not relevant to the class. But it was captivating. So you'd learn things. You mightn't have been jotting it down on paper, but you learned stuff. She was very good. The rest were just stock standard to useless. So the maths teacher, he had to do they wrote this, here we go. 26th of the 3rd, 1984. So it took them about 2 months to get this to me. They probably sent it out in the post. Here's their very limited achievement meant the student has not achieved the essential requirements of the subject as set out under Copton Fundamentals. Copton Fundamentals, the student has learned the fundamentals, the simple skills and core learning required in the subject at the year level indicated. So I just had too many very limited achievements. So anyway, the maths teacher, because he was the class teacher, he had to do his spiel here. Student's name, Douglas Warren. Year level at time of leaving 10. Number of years at this school 3. School reference. Douglas attended Unley High School for a period of 3 years during which he was generally punctual and made some effort to adhere to uniform requirements. No shit, Sherlock. We were that broke. Our family was that poor. I didn't really have any other clothes besides a school uniform. So, yeah, I didn't try and push the boundaries of school uniform because I had nothing to push it with. So, yeah, I rocked up. It was probably unclean at times, and my shoes were no doubt at one part of the year nice, and then near the end of the year holes and scruffy. Personally, Douglas exhibited wit and a very distinctive personality. Douglas showed himself to be a most firm-minded lad, prepared to fight a cause doggedly. Douglas was a willing and frequent participator in class activities beyond the classroom. I don't know what happened outside of the classroom. The only thing they don't have here is physical education, which I just breezed through because I was a very athletic young lad. So that was that. My school leaver statement. Now I don't know if that's good or bad. It is what it is, or what it was. But I think it highlights, and correct me if you think I'm wrong in the comments, that there's always going to be students like me. Some a bit better, some a bit worse. So I think every high school and every primary school I'll put in there too, and the system's different in England and America and Europe, but in general it's all the same. And I just think schools need to cater for students who don't clock on to the regular curriculum. So instead of going, yeah, you's a scum, we got to get rid of you, scum. You're giving us a bad reputation from an academic and business point of view. Instead of doing that, and let's get rid of these kids ASAP, why don't they go, okay, so we've got kids at different ages, they're not learning, they're not catching on, they need a new way, a different way to learn. Maybe start putting them into a special class. Let's try and get them as far as we can academically. Let's not kick them to the curb, because there's no more factory fodder, because there's no more factories. You know, there's nothing now in manufacturing in Australia. There is some, but it's all specialised. But it's not like it was. So that's what I think schools should do, and I think high schools in particular, but all schools, year groups. That's, you know, at year 10, going into year 10, they had 15 of us, boys and girls. Academically, we weren't shining, and instead of going, well, we've got a class of 15 here, let's get some teachers in who are empathetic, compassionate, but also willed enough to get results without, you know, using a whip, because you get more results with a carrot than a stick. And let's try and lift them up. You know, let's get another year out of them. Let's get them going in this year so they can get into next year and hopefully go through the whole stages. So that's my rant. So that's my video for today. So in the comments, if you're still here with me, in the comments, tell me what your schooling was like. You know, whether you're one of those kids that breeze through, or whether you're a kid like me, just had struggles with it, getting through, etc., etc. If you think I'm being an idiot, say that as well. I don't care. I might reply back, I might not. I might just ignore you. But I don't think any of you are going to say that about me. Okay, well, the move is happening within the month. had this neighbour offer me $40,000 more this morning for the house, and it just can't happen. Where were you at the auction, you idiot? You had your chance. Rightio, well, I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're inclined to do so. Hit the bell, and enjoy your weekend. And I hope you have a good one. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Ciao for now.